Christ, the Body Detective, and I have today a guest called Don the Dragon Wilson, my very special guest. And so, Don, welcome to the show, and let's let everybody know who Don Wilson is.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you for letting me give my own intro because I could be more specific about things that I think I'm more known for. I'm probably more widely known for acting because it's more of a mainstream thing, but I'm actually a kickboxing champion, former champion kickboxing. And I fought for 28 years. I won 11 world titles. I'm in the Guinness Book of World Records. Not that anybody needs 11 world titles, but I won 11. And currently I'm retired from fighting, and I'm in the movie industry. I make action movies, martial art action movies.
It's still like you're in great shape, Don.
Well, you know what? That's nothing to do with wanting to be a fighter again. It's just I just have been an athlete all my life. You know, I was the MVP of my high school football and basketball team, and so I started way back then dedicating myself to sports. I just loved it. It just it came instinctually. It wasn't like somebody behind me whipping me to go to the gym. I just couldn't wait to get there. The high point of my day is working out.
Mm-hmm. Now, like we discussed earlier, I'd like for you to share with everybody how you got introduced to martial arts. Because being a good athlete's one thing, but being a martial artist, you stepped into a different realm, right?
Yes, it's a different thing. You know, and we like to say it's a lifestyle, actually, martial artists. You know, it encompasses a lot of character building. You know, we got to teach people. If you just teach people how to fight, you're making a potential bully. If you don't teach them the morals and the ethics and the responsibility that goes with it. So my first introduction to martial arts was my brother, my smaller but older brother, James, was a black belt before I started martial arts. And I used to come home from the Coast Guard Academy where I was going to school, and we would put on boxing gloves and just spar around. And I weighed 205 and he was about 145. So he said to me one day, he said, "Hey, Don, I'm going to throw a few kicks if you don't mind." I said, yeah, go ahead, because I didn't think those kicks would do anything. And he ended up kicking me all over the front yard of our house and really making a believer out of me. And I realized the value of the martial arts. If you can use your hands and your legs, it's much better than just being adept at one.
Right, because really that's what you were. I mean, me watching you as a fighter over the years is watch your feet were really especially well.
Well,
you kick pretty well.
They divide kickboxers into two categories. They're punchers or kickers. And I was known to be a kicker. I basically would soften my opponents up, score points. I'd be ahead on points. I'd be winning the fight. And then I'd set them up. And of course, I got 48 knockouts, but only 3 were by kick. The rest were by hand. So, you know, I knocked out 45 guys with punches.
Right. And so 11 times. So basically you retired with no one challenging you.
No, there were challenges all over the world. Believe me, there's always a bunch of contenders.
But nobody really wanted to fight.
For 10 years, I held the title from 1980 to 1990, the light heavyweight WKA light heavyweight title. And yeah, I fought for other associations, won other titles, but that was my main, I would say, claim to fame as a kickboxer was I was the WKA light heavyweight champion for 10 years, and nobody's even come close to that.
Now you said Chuck Norris got you involved as far as professionally. So did you take that next step?
In the movie industry.
Oh, he put you in the movie industry. So what helped you get to the professional? Where did you take that step?
My brother promoted the very first fight in 1974 on the East Coast in Florida, and the first what they call full contact karate fights were in L.A. That was here in L.A. Where I live now. And I think Telly Savalas was the celebrity commentator, and it was a big success. And my brother watched that on TV and thought, hey, he would try the same thing in Florida on the East Coast. And he asked me if I'd fight, and I said, yeah. And by the way, I went into the fight with a broken hand. I broke my hand, but I fought anyway. And there was no athletic commission, and I lost the fight. I lost money because there was no insurance. There was no association, athletic association. So the promoters weren't insured. So I lost money, lost the fight, and I loved it.
Broken hands. Wow. So
ball in NFL football.
Yeah. So now going from the pro status of all these years and the titles you've done, and you said Chuck now influenced you to go from the martial art world now into the movie world.
Correct. He was coming to my fights. As a matter of fact, he wouldn't just get in the ring and congratulate me and everything. He actually announced some of the fights. So yeah, he was very supportive of my fight career. And he said when I would get ready to retire that I should move to LA because I was living in Florida at the time. Get an agent, take acting lessons, and try acting as a second career. Because Bruce Lee put him in a movie, and he ended up having a career as an actor. Matter of fact, he was more successful as a television star than even a movie star because his television show was #1 for 8 straight years worldwide. #1 action.
Wow. Yeah. So, so you were able to do like a lot of people don't do. You're able to still fight and still do movies at the same time. You were telling me, right?
For years, I went back and forth. Yeah, 28 years I was a fighter.
Yeah. So I'm sure sometimes you may show up to the movie with the little bruises or something from a previous fight, right?
You know, I don't recall that happening. No makeup artist having those.
Yeah.
I had a pretty, you know, if there's one thing that separates me from all the other fighters is my defense. Because, and I tell people, they even today I train in a boxing gym.
Yeah.
Guys come in, they're all about what am I going to hit today? Hit the bag and hit the hand, net pads and things. They forget that the other guy in the ring is trying to hit you. And I told people, I don't know if they listened to me, but some of the fighters did. But I tell them, I said, listen, if you make it your goal not to be touched by the other person's glove, all you have to do is land a couple of jabs and you'll win the round, right? If you can avoid, block, slip, bob and weave, and not get hit solid, and you land 2 solid jabs, you've just won the round. Wow. So you take the pressure off your offense if you have a great defense. And, you know, there's no fighters that I've heard of that lasted 28 years in kickboxers, except me. And
yeah, that's a long time. That's a long time.
Well, in a contact sport like this, where you're punching, kicking, you're using your knees, you're throwing elbows at people's faces, and I mean, it's a you can't submit. You can't grab me in a wrist lock and I just tap out and then no injury, right? In kickboxing, as you get to the higher levels, after 1980, I was a champion. I fought only top 10 fighters. Now, those top 10 guys are athletes. They're good. Physically, I would say athletes at the top 10% are pretty much the same. You know, I'm no superior, faster, reflexes, conditioning. It's all internal after that.
Who is one of the tougher fights that you, as far as somebody out there, you remember really having a tough fight with someone?
Oh wow, gosh, you know there were so many because I beat 11 other world champions. Yeah, and I fought several undefeated champions, guys who their only loss was with me.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But there's many. I would say. Whoa! Let's do it this way. Which win am I most proud of?
Okay, let's say that.
And that's one way to figure out which guy was the toughest. And it was a guy named Jean Theriault, and he was from Canada. And we had both won the title the same year. We won it in 1980. Now, he's living in Montreal. I'm living in Cocoa Beach, Florida. I fight for a different association. So we both can be champions. But you know, if one guy's calling himself the light heavyweight champion, the other guy's fighting the same weight division, the only way to be sure which guy is best is we have to fight. Right? Well, both our associations would not sanction the fight.
Really?
Neither, because we were big money makers. I fought on NBC, Sports World. I fought the first fight ever televised on ESPN, first kickboxing match. But we were famous in our own right, and we could have just stayed like Pacquiao and Mayweather, champions and respected, and gone off to the sunset with nobody ever getting a win or a loss. But we didn't want to do that. The associations wanted us to. They didn't want to take a chance on the PKA champion beating the WK or the WK beating the PKA. So neither association sanctioned the fight, but we agreed to fight each other 12 rounds in Montreal. Now, in that contract, there was a rematch clause because, you know, the way fights are, 20 punches come zinging by your head. All you have to do is lean one way when you should have leaned this way, and you can get knocked out. It could happen to me. It could happen to him. We wanted a fail-safe way we could have another chance. We put in the contract, rematch clause guaranteed no matter who wins. We'll fight twice to decide. And that will be now here's how, if he won one and I won one, we'd have to do a third. We would put a third in there, but of course we would have to Like Frazier and Ali, you know, it'd be that kind of a trilogy. But here's what happened. We fight under his rules, not the rules I fight under. In my association, we keep the leg. But I fought in Montreal, his hometown, at his referee, and under his rules, and they called it a draw. Now, I feel like I won. And the audience, the Montreal audience, his own hometown audience, came out of the stands, picked me up, and carried me to the locker room, and they were going, Wilson, Wilson. So the audience thought he won. But you have to watch the fight yourself to decide. You know, a decision, when there's no knockout, the decision is just the opinion of three guys sitting at ringside, right? Just three people. They say, hey, I think Don won. The other guys, I think Johnny won.
So is there anybody that's so is there anybody that you didn't get to fight back in the days that you wanted to fight?
You know what? There was a lot of guys, but here's the thing: at a certain point you have to retire because your body can't do it. And like I said, I lasted until
you last a long time. Yeah.
2002. And then what happened to me is doesn't happen to most fighters. I became a movie star. So now, like I explained to you, if I was going to fight one of the guys, my contenders that I believe is close, he deserves a shot at me, I'm going to lose money. Now, when you do things that cause you to lose money, that's called a hobby. You spend money on hobbies. Hobbies don't make you money generally, right? You spend money. And I would be losing money to fight, so I had to retire. I retired not because I'm ducking guys, but I had become an actor. I have to admit, I was more of an actor than a fighter. I would do 5 movies in 1 year. According to Entertainment Weekly, they came to LA to, their LA newscast or whatever interviewed me because they said in the history of Hollywood film, no movie star had starred in 5 movies, all the same genre, in 1 year, all successful. But you know, Tom Cruise doesn't need to do 5 movies a year, right? I was doing videos, and you know, I told people, actors would say, Don, you're getting overexposed. 5 movies in 1 year, 5. I said, listen, every weekend, the people go to Blockbusters, look for the new movie. I said, I could do 50 movies. And if they're good, I'm saying, you know, good martial art action movies, it's kind of like Walker, Texas Ranger. People watch that every week, right? He was the #1 action show in the world.
Very famous, right?
8 years. Because if you're studying martial arts, there's nobody else doing it but Chuck, right? We got one martial artist guy with a TV show, and it's Chuck Norris. And people watch it every I believe it's Saturday night. Bad time slot, but he got in the top 10 Nielsen ratings twice on a Saturday night, 10 o'clock at night time slot. So that's why he was a tremendous success as a TV.
So let's say Don, like your fights, like I said, you said you change it and says what you're most proud of, you know, the best fight. What about the movies? What's the movies you're most excited about that you made?
Well, there's two. And one of them, oddly enough, my life is a series of extremes. The one script I turned down from Roger Corman, because I did 12 movies with Roger Corman. He sent me a script. It was a good script, but it was about a guy. My character, every scene, he's in prison. And I thought to myself, okay, that eliminates car chase scenes, right? Yeah. It eliminates shootouts, explosions, sexy women. There's no women. There's a bunch of guys in the prison. And it was all about racism. Now look, today, because of the Me Too movement and these oath keepers and the way racism has become part of our cultural news every day, I think I would have done it in a heartbeat. In fact, I'm looking for scripts like that now that deal with racism because it's a hot topic. But in 1990, it was not. Matter of fact, the walls were still up in Hollywood for starring black actors in A-list films. They didn't do it. When I made this movie, it's called Forced to Fight, and it's a prison movie. And I turned it down. But now you ask me which is the two. It's one of the top 2 I'm proud of.
And which one was this again?
It was probably shot in 1991 or so.
One of your Blood Fist movies, I think, was a
Blood
prison
Fist
movie,
3.
right?
This is Blood Fist 3.
Yeah, Blood Fist 3, right?
It's Blood Fist 3, Forced to Fight, and it's a prison movie. And you know what?
Because you didn't want a prison movie, right? Is kind of like what you're saying. You're not sure if you wanted to do that.
Okay, look at it this way. You and your girlfriend want to watch a movie the weekend. You go to the Blockbuster at 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon to get your weekend movie. You go,
Right.
hey, honey, let's watch that new prison movie. To me, it just didn't sound commercial. There's some, it's a little bit depressing in a way, because with the end of the movie, I'm still in prison. I don't get out of, it's not a movie about me getting out. Innocent man, wrongly convicted. No. It's about a guy dealing with racism. There's a black gang and a white gang, and then an Asian. So I'm thrown right in the middle of these two racial conflicts between the white prisoners and the black prisoners. And it's just a great script, you know, and I turned it down because I didn't think it was commercial. But Richard Roundtree did such a great job. I don't know if you know the actor, but he's the original guy who played Shaft.
Oh, shit, yes. Well, I just watched the movie just last week, that movie, actually.
Well, the original.
Blood Fist 3.
Oh, Blood Fist 3. Oh, okay, so you know Richard Roundtree.
Yeah.
Look, a lot of people say, oh, Don, your acting was so good. I said, when you're with a guy like Richard Roundtree, you don't have to act. All you have to do is listen to him. Just look at him and listen to him, and you will feel things as your character should. He gets it out of you. And I found that as an actor that, they say it's like tennis. If you're John McEnroe, you can't show your best if you're going up against some high school kid, right? You can't show your best moves. But if you get another Beyond Board and Jimmy Connors or whatever, some great, then to keep up, you've got to give the audience your best. And when I work with better actors, I believe they brought better performances for me.
You know? Well, you know, if you mention prison movie, you're pretty much going to see fighting. Any kind of prison movie, you're going to guarantee good fights.
The kind of fights, though, are hand-to-hand, though, right?
Yeah, and with knives and shanks.
Because we can't just go in with an assault weapon. I did a war movie once, and there was very little hand. In fact, the script had no hand-to-hand, and I added it. It was a movie called The Last Sentinel. But it was a war movie. It's humans versus genetically engineered humans. And, yeah, so maybe I'm shooting my gun. Yeah.
Well, you're funny. You mentioned about which movie you want to watch with your wife on the weekend, a prison movie. Well, my wife's kind of like another martial art movie. Really, that's her that's her take.
I got a perfect one for her though. And by the way, you can watch Blood Fist 3 right on YouTube free, and you can watch Red Sun Rising on YouTube free. And Red Sun Rising was an HBO world premiere. Which means, HBO at the time, if you were not in the theaters, which my films were called video releases, they're not the theatrical release. But if you get the HBO World Premiere, that's the top of the line. And I got 4 of them. I got 4, and this is one of them. It's called Red Sun Rising.
Red Sun Rising.
And your wife will like it because it's a love story. Matter of fact,
well, I'll get back to you and let you know after we watch it how things went.
Well, okay, because it's a strong female lead. And when the action starts, she pulls her gun, and it's not like she's the damsel in distress and I have to save her all the time. It's a good, strong female role way before it got to be popular in Hollywood. This movie probably came out in 94, 93. Well, anyway, it was in the early 90s. Red Sun Rising.
Red Sun Rising.
Michael Ironside is in it. I don't know if you know Ironside. He's a very popular actor, character actor.
So I got another question on this. Now, as far as movies like your movies you love, what about old movies? Do you have like a favorite old martial art movie?
Of course, Enter the Dragon.
Enter the Dragon.
That's it. That's everybody pretty much. Overall, that's it. As far as a single scene, it'd be Bruce Lee versus Chuck Norris.
So that's a movie they should never remake because they talk about remaking it, and it's like,
well, they've actually done it. I mean, Bloodsport is a remake of it in a way, where guys get in the ring and they fight each other, and they have some premise why they're fighting, and so no, I think Enter the Dragon was the first, and then look, Blood Fist, my first film, starring, is a ripoff of not an illegal ripoff, but it's a copy of or a clone of Bloodsport.
Right. Right.
guys in the ring, one guy fights. You know, I'm trying to think about the story for Bloodsport. See. My character is getting revenge for the death of his brother.
Mm.
I don't know. That was not that. I think Kickboxer for Van Damme was about a brother getting killed in the ring, and then Van Damme gets revenge, which means Van Damme did a bigger budget version of my movie Blood Fist.
Right.
Kickboxer was about his brother gets killed.
Yeah. So with all this, Don, what you're looking at the movies, looking at martial arts. I mean, how do you as a person view your biggest accomplishment at this point in your life for you?
Well, the thing that I'm most proud of is
Yes.
when I meet my fans and they say, you know, I watched one of your movies or I watched you fight, and I studied martial arts. That inspired me to study martial arts. Now, I say that because I believe martial arts, the study of martial arts, is good for humanity. It's good for the health, fitness, mental discipline. It just makes you a better human being, you know. And look, I don't know if you ever watched Star Trek, but there was an episode of this guy named Khan. And
Oh yeah, I remember Khan.
Khan said one thing right though: if you improve yourself, everything else is better after that. And you know, they were doing, I believe it was about genetic manipulation, where we could genetically create healthier, stronger, faster, more intelligent human beings if we just did. What do they call it when they breed dogs?
Well, one thing is altering your DNA. If you turn on more DNA, you're genetically modified right there.
If we can use science to improve humanity, but you know, here's what people keep saying though, is that who's going to be the decider of what is an improvement? You know, what do we need to improve? You know, I don't know. There's morality, ethical considerations when you start manipulating, when we start creating humans. You know, like we do with dogs. Because look how we pick a dog and make it a Chihuahua or a Great Dane. The big difference is you barely would recognize. I mean, they look a little the same, and they have this, but we manipulate their genes and their DNA and chromosomes and everything to create two totally different kind of animals.
So really, Don, really, you're really hearing feedback from people about what you've done, how you've inspired others. I mean, like I said, in the 80s, we watched you fight. I mean, we watched you fight. We're inspired by your fighting back in the 80s when it got me into karate and kickboxing because I was doing more Japanese jiu-jitsu back then. And I saw people fighting in the ring. I said, hey, yeah, I loved it. So Don, you know, there's some people watching. You'll be watching this show. Don, there's some guys that I want to say a shout out that were watching you who are very inspired by you. And they're over there in the Middle East. There's 17 refugee camps where you now have people fighting on the with WACO and those amateur levels right now, and they're all be watching. They're waiting to hear from you today. So if you say hi to all these Lebanese fighters, these Palestinian Lebanese guys, they came from nothing. They have nothing. In fact, their training gym was bricks with cell phones and the lights on, and that's how they were training. And Nazar Talib.
That's what I had coming up. I had an empty garage with a chain and one bag.
Yeah.
And I put a glass mirror so I could shadow box a little bit. But
well, they're watching you today. They're waiting to see you today to say, "Hey, Don, thank you so much. You're inspiring those guys over there." You know. And Nazar says he knows you. Like I said, Nazar Talib, he's the one responsible for making that happen over there. So kickboxing around the world for everyone.
Yeah. Well, you know, it doesn't have a downside because, heaven forbid, you should use it for self-defense.
Right.
You get attacked, but you learn how to throw an elbow or you can throw a punch. But it's better to have something like that, the ability to defend yourself and never use it, than to need it and not have it.
Right. So who is role models to you besides the Bruce Lee movie? What about instructors or other people, role models for you growing up, Don?
Well, okay, Bruce Lee, I don't look at him as an actor. Yes, he had phenomenal screen presence. His movies were highly successful. But he was a role model in the sense of the study of the martial arts and living life. Because he always believed you should be improving yourself. Always. You never get to the point where, well, I've learned everything now. Now I'm Mr. Know-It-All. Just come to me, I have all the answers. We'll never get that way. We all should be learning and improving ourselves in increments, of course, you know, for the rest of our lives until we're gone. Until we're gone. And I don't believe this is your one shot at life anyway. I mean, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes form. And I believe we just keep going, and whatever life energy is and whatever spirit is, it will manifest itself in another way, in some way, shape, or form. We will all go through this. I think.
So, Doc, if you got a lesson from these people, like let's say Bruce Lee's lesson, what is the biggest lesson you've learned as a martial artist, really, that's really helped you in life in general?
Well, I know one thing, and it's helped me in the movie industry as well, is to accept patience.
Patience.
In this way, things that happen quickly are not as valuable as things that just in the nature of it. Nobody goes from a white belt to a black belt. There's a long road at stretching, learning techniques, practicing, failures you go through, injuries, sickness. There's a long road, but all that is part of the lesson. If you can't, if I just gave you a pill and you took the pill and you were a black belt, I mean, the abilities of a black belt, you can punch and kick great all of a sudden, but that you didn't learn all the stuff. You didn't earn the right to have that knowledge, so you wouldn't use it the proper way. You wouldn't appreciate it. You wouldn't see it in others. You know, black belts generally, the ones that have the right attitude, we have the greatest sympathy for white belts because we used to be white belts. We used to not be able to touch our toes, and every time we threw a punch, we were off balance. Everybody, and that's why the humbleness comes with, no matter how many world titles I won or whatever, I'm still as humble when I see a white belt. I sympathize with them because I was there one time myself. Chuck Norris the same way. You'll never meet a guy more humble or respectful in that regard as Chuck Norris to everybody, to the white belt. Yeah, and I believe that's part of the martial art way. You know,
so patience, humbleness, all of these things, very good attributes. So what about injuries, Don? I mean, being a martial artist, you're going to get injured. What is like one of the worst injuries you've had to get over before?
Well, probably one of the most dangerous was I had a ruptured esophagus. The guy used a knee against me in a fight, and knees were not legal in that fight. Mm-hmm. And he used a knee, and it collapsed my chest, and I held my breath, and it literally blew a hole in my esophagus.
Really?
I had a hole in my esophagus from a knee to the chest. And when I went in there, first of all, I didn't know what it was. I just had sharp pain, felt like a heart attack. You know, it was just like sharp pain in my chest. And immediately when I got out of the ring, I was thirsty. I looked for something. Somebody had a Coke. I drank the Coke, and what was happening was this: all the carbonation in the Coke, the sugar, the sweet, the syrup, it went down my throat and went into my chest cavity.
Wow!
And here's the reason why the doctor said this happened, and they showed it to me. I went to the emergency room, the hospital. They get me and they put the thing on me where they can look into my chest and give me like a chalky cup of fluid to drink. But it's like chalk. It's like you ground up chalk and put it in water. And I drink it, and he said, watch. And I watched it go down, and it went out the hole.
Wow.
So what I did was I took Coca-Cola, and I released it all into every cavity of your body. It went into my esophagus and out my esophagus, but within my body, not out on the floor or anything. I had Coca-Cola.
Well, it's highly acidic. At least it cleaned your tubes from the inside.
Well, here's what they said. They said I was in, I had to be in intensive care and everything. I had to be just sitting in the hospital. They put, I think, oxygen up my nose and everything so I could breathe. But they were worried about infection. That's what he said. I stayed for like a week and a half, maybe 8 days, something like that.
Did they have to do any surgery for that to sew it back up?
No surgery. But what they did was I had did a couple of times where I drank the thing and they saw it, and then when it went straight down, They said I was okay.
Wow.
And but that's a bizarre injury. Now
That is bizarre. That is.
I call that the worst one. But the worst thing that can happen to any human is to have your head hit, because you don't get those brain cells back. When you get hit in the head, it bleeds. Where it's bleeding, it's killing brain cells. And it's I had a great defense. I told you that, but I fought for 40 years. 28 years. 78 to 2002. I got hit in the head 10,000 times.
Right.
The normal human being does not take one headshot or three headshots. Has never been stunned. It's never. And I know this. I was in Canada doing a movie in Toronto, and I had not taken the physical for the movie. So I'm shooting the movie. So I've been shooting for a week. So they're locked into me, and then they realize they need to take a physical for the insurance, for the bonding company. So they rush me to a hospital in Toronto. I get on there, and they know I'm a fighter. They do a CAT scan. Doctor looks at it. He gets on the phone. He calls about 3 other doctors, and I'm still in the room, but they're acting like I'm not even there, and they're pointing at everything. So they said, "Oh, Mr. Wilson, you're fine for the movie." I got nervous. I said, "Hey, am I all right?" And they said, "You're fine for the movie." But my CAT scan looks so abnormal because I've been a kickboxer, and it's the same as boxing. I go to the gym. I box 90% of the time.
So they saw a lot of micro traumas in the brain.
Whatever they saw, it's not the normal. Normal brains don't look like that.
Yes, you'll see like a lot of little calcification on an MRI when you look at the brain.
Because you mentioned the headshots.
Yeah.
And not that I got knocked out over and over and over, but just I tell people every time you get hit, there's some damage. You just don't see it. It's the damage is inside the brain. It's bouncing around inside your skull, right? Floating around in fluid. And if guy goes like that with a big glove on, yeah, you're not getting the bruise, but the concussion inside your brain.
Yeah. But obviously, Don, your head must be pretty hard to take that many shots for those many years.
No, I probably got calluses in there. I got calluses all inside my head. Look, no, but like I said, I do flaunt my defense. If the good fighters I fought had hit me with their best stuff, I go out just like everybody else. I'm not a Superman. I'm not Mike Tyson, who, he hits guys on top of the head and knocks them out.
Right. He hits hard.
Technician. I had a great defense. I ran 6 to 9 miles every single day.
6 to 9? Yeah, I didn't ask you questions about your conditioning. Was anything? Well, Don, was there anything different you did in your conditioning back in the days that was different from others?
Well, the running was the amount of running. Because now I run maybe 3 miles a day, but then out in the hot sun of Florida, and I ran in soft sand, which very unusual because most guys will run on sand, but they find the flattest part, the wet sand, it's more flat. I didn't. I literally sought out the deep, soft sand, so I would sink in. So you move really slow though. It's a real slow jog, but you just work. After 6 miles of that, you are covered in sweat. And I run at high noon in Florida, like hottest part of the day. I had pro boxers come with me. They work out with me for like 3 days. They go back up north, and they said they're done.
So you ran like 6 days a week. You ran 6 to 9 miles during those days.
There's no such 6 days. I trained every single day, unless I was sick. If you said, "Oh, Don, but you got a broken hand, you could train today," I said, "Absolutely," because I still got my legs. I got my other hand. You can always train through injury, but you cannot train in sickness. I would tell people if I got cold, flu, and I used to get migraines, by the way. I got migraines for years. Don't get them anymore. But this is part of the story. You are a chiropractor, right?
Right.
Yeah,
well, I'll tell you this. Looking at many fighters, your atlas, that very first bone, your atlas is probably so calcified from being hit in the head so many times. You probably see that on an X-ray.
Maybe.
That's all right.
I'm scared to even look at them. I'm scared to even look at them. But my wife is a makeup artist, and she has backache and things. She has chiropractors come to our house. Whatever extra money she pays. Yeah, he comes to our house. And he goes, "Mr. Wilson, your wife tells me you've got some joint pain." I said, "Yeah, I've been told I need my shoulder operated on. I need a hip replacement, which everybody gets. Chuck Norris had the hip replaced. Bill Wallace, the champion.
Bill Wallace, yep.
Many people do because it's abnormal to hold your leg up this way, and then for the shock of the kick to be hitting, it's like the joint is meant to be taking this, not this. Right. And that's what mine did. So and I think this might be a coincidence. Right knee, right hip, right shoulder, sharp pain. And I don't mean dull aches. Dull aches you can train through. Sharp pain, I would just walk out of the gym. When I feel it, I just stop. When I came out of retirement, and I said, I got to go home. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I can't stand on my right leg now. I'm going to go home. Okay, that's the pain I was getting. This chiropractor looks at me. He says, Mr. Wilson, he goes, you take this. It was, if I can remember, glucosamine, chondroitin, some vitamin, minerals, protein. It was a whole thing to basically he was wanting me to take these nutrients. And I looked at that and I just tossed it. I didn't buy one. Well, I came home one day, there was a case, all that stuff, my wife went out and bought it. So I told people this is not the placebo effect, because the placebo effect is a powerful, magical, if I believe something, it almost makes it true. This is the most powerful thing is our brains. People don't even give it the slightest.
What about stem cell? What about yourself now, Don? Have you got into stem cell, looked into that for yourself?
I don't need any of that now because I'm going to tell you what happened when I started taking these vitamin mineral supplements.
Okay.
I've never taken them because the dogma was in the 50s, because I grew up in the 50s, if you eat a balanced diet, you don't need vitamin and mineral supplements. That's what the medical community told us. Researchers, scientists, you don't need it, they said. Right. Well, you know what? Turns out my body was starving for that. Even though I was an athlete, the only thing that saved me is all the other athletes were as malnutritioned as I was. So we were on an even playing field. But when I know my body, and when I started changing my diet, and I took the vitamin, mineral, protein supplements, look, if it happens to you in 48 hours, it's a drug. It ain't the vitamin. But over years, now this is 1998. It's 2022 now. I've been on high-grade protein, mineral protein supplements for over 20-something years, and I feel better than I did when I was in my 40s. The pain is gone. By the way, a byproduct of it is this. I don't wear glasses anymore. I wore glasses since I couldn't get a driver's license when I was 16. I have to wear glasses. I had a restricted license because of my eyesight. Now my glasses are gone. I'm on this computer. I used to wear bifocals. In my 40s, I wore bifocals. I couldn't read the computer. I couldn't read a menu. I couldn't read a cell phone. When I was in the 40s, in the times you watch those movies, I was in pain every film, every fight scene. I had to sit down and almost meditate in between because the director would ask for another take. And I had to get up and feel the pain in the shoulder, pain in the hip. And now it's all gone.
Really?
Yes, no pain and no place in my body. And by the way, I went to orthopedic surgery. Ms. Wilson, this does not heal. It's bone on bone right now. We just need to cut that bone off, put a titanium thing in there, and your hip will be fine. I didn't do any operations. And look, I go online and I see things. People are writing stuff that you can affect your eyesight by nutrition. But when I did it, it was years ago. I don't know what years ago it was. I was in my 50s. I had to ask my son how old he was when he was playing baseball, because that's how I figured out I didn't need glasses anymore. I forgot to bring my glasses in a huge right field. The right field's in the middle of nowhere. You can't read their number. And I could actually see him. I said, wait a minute, what's going on? My eyes. I could see my son. I could see his number. I could see his hat. I probably could read the name of his team on his baseball cap because I no longer wear glasses. Huh. And yeah, so I don't know if I'm the only one it's ever going to happen to, or it has absolutely nothing to do with the vitamin and mineral supplements. Maybe, well, my eye doctor, I go in there and he has me read everything, and he acts like he's mad at me because every year he makes more powerful prescriptions. And I go, what's wrong? He goes, you don't need glasses anymore. And I said, I don't? He goes, no. And I said, well, what am I'm holding glasses. I said, what do I do with these? Because he used to get them and put new lenses in them. And he goes, you do whatever you want with them. He acted like he was angry with me.
Probably so.
Well, because whatever I did, he better not let me tell all his patients, because I can't be the only guy who turns 68 and now has perfect vision.
Yeah.
I fought my whole career with one eye. My left eye has got a bad stigmatism, or it did for my whole life. And everything was blurry. If I looked at stuff up close, it was blurry. If I looked at stuff, but now it's crystal clear. Everything is crystal clear, both eyes.
So your left eye, when you were fighting back then, you had a high stigmatism in your eye?
That's why I fought like this.
Really?
Fastball. Right eye was my good eye. I kept this to protect my left side, because I would always get caught on right hand when I fought like this, because I can kind of see. It's not like I'm blind, but it's blurry.
I guess nobody knew that back then.
I would never have said that, and nobody.
I'm sure they said, "Hey, hit him on this side. He can't see over here, guys." They didn't say that.
No, nobody said it, because I never let anybody know. I would never do an interview and say, "Hey, I'm like this is my," because that's what guys did. Any problem? All the hits were all on my left side because it's blurry. And listen, one of the great things though is, and I just a fluke, because I joined this health club and they had a basketball gym, so I'd pick up a basketball. I played basketball with one eye my whole career, so I didn't really have depth perception. And it's so much easier to shoot a basket when you can actually see the basket.
Really?
Yeah, but I picked up the ball. Hadn't played since I was in college, which was 40 years ago. And I shot 12 from the foul shot in a row. Number 13, probably subconsciously I thought it was an unlucky number 13. I missed it. But it was so easy to put it in there when you can see the basket.
All right.
All right. Like a blurry orange thing. And that's what I aimed at. And like I said, I scored 40 points a game in high school. And I was the MVP of the high school basketball team. And I thought I saw what everybody saw, because I didn't get my eyes examined until I was in the Coast Guard Academy. And then they said, "Hey, where's your glasses?" I said, "I don't have any glasses." He goes, "You can't."
So Don, let's change subject just a second. So all the especially a lot of different people be watching the show today, but especially the martial artists out there, you see a lot has changed over the years. The martial art world and now the MMA world is here. And I come from a background like you as far as the kickboxing, karate world. And what do you see the future of where martial arts is going? Because with the MMA so popular today, it's just not as televised to see the kickboxing or karate that you used to see. Where do you see the future of martial arts going these days?
The thing is about MMA is Bruce Lee promoted MMA back in fact, he invented the gloves that you could punch and kick. Jeet Kune Do gloves, we call them. I'm a big Bruce Lee fan. I'm not a fan of his movies. I'm a fan of his movies, but I'm saying my fandom is in his philosophy. He's like the Einstein of martial arts. Einstein didn't go out and build any machine that we didn't have, but he understood the basics of the universe. The way energy works, and his basic foundation of physics is what we appreciate Einstein. And Bruce Lee's the same way. He said study everything, not just one style. And he said, in the end, you'll have a personal style. The way you fight, don't copy me and do exactly like me. It just so happened Bruce Lee fought right side forward, even though he's right-handed, because he believed you use your strong hand forward. Well, I did that too, but for a different reason, because of the eyesight. His favorite technique and the most powerful was the side kick. Turned out that was my best technique. I tell people it's 70% of my offense, because when I throw that side kick, once you bring those hands down, I come in with everything else. You know what I mean? Like, I use the side kick, and for me, I get the side kick. I will never meet a guy, and I haven't, that I can't land the side kick somewhere. Because if you think about it, if I throw it at the leg, I can throw it at the body, I can throw it at the head. Now, you cannot defend all those areas at the same time. You can just sort of run from me if you think you can win a kickboxing 12-round fight by just running from the other guy. But for you to stand and fight with me, my side kick, because it comes right out, it's powerful, and I hit only with the heel. And I could just as easily lean back just maybe 2 more inches, 3 more inches, and it'll hit you right in the face. Pow. Mm-hmm. And I don't know anybody who wants to get hit in the face with somebody's heel from a side kick. You know, and so the young fighters today, they come into the gym, MMA guys and kickboxers. and they don't even throw side kicks. It's not even thrown anymore. Guys don't throw it. It is the most underused, but it was my favorite weapon, and it's even better for me that they don't, because now they don't know how to block. They don't know what it is I'm doing. I hit them maybe 4 or 5 times every round. Lightly, though. I just touched them. And at the end of the sparring, I tell them any one of those I could have unloaded, because they watch me kick this heavy bag with the side kick. I blast. Go to my Facebook page. There's people coming and video me, and I said, hey, send that to me. I mean, trainers from LA come in and videotape me, because I do something that, you know, I've never heard of anybody else doing it, but I hit the heavy bag nonstop, round after round. You know, I take my 30-second rest for either 1 hour or 2 hours straight. No stopping.
1 or 2 hours straight. Wow.
Right. It's an aerobic exercise for me, but when you relax, you can just do it. I just do it. I've been doing it now for, let's see, my first pro fight was 74, and you know, it's 50 years.
So if you're inspiring all the martial artists out there, what message would you give all the martial artists out there?
Try to be a little bit better at everything every day. Otherwise, you've just wasted a day. A little bit better with your relationships, a little bit better with your money. Don't spend as much, or save a little more. Better with your training, you know, train every day. You know, just a little increments. You don't try for things that are overnight successes. You know, I mean, if I've made mistakes in my life, those were the ones. You know, I wanted that gambling. What are you trying to do? You try to make quick cash really fast, so you're putting down big money. Yeah. I've made all the mistakes. I learned from the school of hard knocks, I guess. I learned to block right hands by getting hit by right hands. And so if people want to take that, I've been living on this planet for 68 years, and I think if there's any wisdom at all, it's that I would say set really high goals and just try to move in the direction, even if it's 1 inch. Even if you don't move forward, just keep facing the right way. You know what I mean? Like if you want to go to China, you can't go there by heading west. You know, you go east, or you just keep going towards your goal, whatever they are. I think some motivational speakers, guys like Tony Robbins and these guys, they have to tell people so basic. So people live their lives with no goals. I mean, if you have no place to, if you don't have it's like a destination. If you don't have a destination, you're like a piece of driftwood just floating in the ocean, right? You can go anywhere and go nowhere, and it doesn't really matter one way or the other. What happens? You're just drifting through life like a piece of driftwood. You've got to have goals, and you've got to just move in small increments.
So what about when we're dealing with adversity, when things aren't really going well in their life? What do you tell somebody, not just a martial artist, you're giving really good tips to life in general, but what do you tell somebody who just, you know, things aren't going well for them? How do they deal with that when things are not going their way?
I believe in this experiment that I'm going to tell you about, that I read about. It's an experiment they do for Special Forces Rangers and for, now I'm not one of them. This is what I read. Special Forces guys, I don't know what you guys, SEAL team guys, right? Those guys,
right.
They do this. They take rats, they put them in water, and they're just treading the water, and within, I don't know, a certain number of hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, they give up, sink, and hopefully they just don't let them drown. They pull them out. I don't know if they do or not. I'm not a Special Forces Ranger. I just read this. Then they get and they let the soldiers all look at that. Then they get the Rangers, and they put the rats in, and they let them swim for a while, and then they come in, they pull them out. After like 10 minutes, they pull them out. And then they put them in again, and then after about an hour and a half, they pull them out. And the rats learn that it's not hopeless. In other words, they have hope. Hope keeps them treading that water longer. So here's what ends up happening. After a couple of times that they got saved, those rats can do it for like a day. It's just some unbelievable. It's like 22 hours they can when they finally go under. But what is that lesson telling these special forces guys? You can go a lot longer than you think you can go. We give up, and that's just it's an experiment with rats, but it's like humans. You think I can't go, I can't flow, I can't tread water another minute. No, it's like and I think that applies to a lot of different things in life. We limit ourselves before we can't go on. I tell people in the knockouts, I knocked out guys, and I'm right next to them, so I know if they're out, and I see their eyes are open, and they choose to stay down. So yes, I've got 48 knockouts, but I'm saying when I get a clean one, crack, and the guy just goes out and unconscious, well, there's no way he can beat the count, right? I mean, the guy is literally, but many times I'm beating a guy, I drop him, and they just decide to stay down. They don't fight to get up. So it's all in your mind. We live in our mind. People who say, oh, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. It's all in your mind, Patrick. Don't worry about it. They don't understand how the universe works. Bruce Lee said, never speak, even in a joking way, negatively. And he says, your body, the universe doesn't understand your joke. It takes it literally. Don't say, I can't do this, or I'll never do that, or I shouldn't do this, because you're limiting yourself. If you say something, it's one step closer to reality. Now, that doesn't mean there's magic in the world. And if I say, you know what, I'm going to win 11 world titles, you can win 11 world titles, you're going to go out and win. No, you still have to do all the running. You have to make all of the sacrifices. You have to have some. I tell people, you have to be born champions, where they say they're not made, they're actually born. You have to start with the genetics, the fast twitch muscles or whatever. You have to have a certain amount, be born with, and then from there, your spirit and your emotions and your dedication can take you so that you push yourself, the physical body you've got to its limit. But a lot of life is your body follows your mind. I like to tell people.
Well, Don, obviously you got it right, because you went past certain limits in your career as a fighter. In the movies, you went a long ways.
I transcended my goals.
So obviously you knew how to think positively in your own mind.
I didn't think high enough, but I thought winning a world title would be a great accomplishment.
Right.
To be a kickboxing world champion, I didn't think, oh, I could win 2, I'll win 3 or 4 or 5, or different weight divisions, different associations, different rules. And when it comes to the movie industry, same thing. I thought I could do a few movies, and I'll tell you the exact dollar amount I was going to leave LA with. I thought if I had $50,000 to open up my school, I could put a ring in there, I could put weights in there, I could have a school that did more. I wanted to have health food products, by the way, but this is before everybody was getting into it. But I wanted to have a holistic kind of a martial arts school, but I needed that $50,000. I didn't have it. My biggest fight person at the time was $15,000, and I just fought there, and I took the $15,000 and used it to LA to become an actor, which it went gone really quick. But so I transcended my goals. So if that happens to you, though, you just set new ones, though. You know what the system is.
So what's your latest movie, Don?
The last one I worked in was called Escape from Rio Bravo, and I played an American. Well, I'm going to say it right. Native American.
Ah.
They don't like to call Indians because they're not from India, right? They're not,
okay.
The settlers got here and thought they were from India because they were dark, but no, they're Native American. Yeah, and I played one with the war paint and everything, and yeah, that's the last thing I did. But I'm in the process right now. In fact, this month I'll be going to Florida to meet. There's an attorney that set up a production company for me, and he's raised some money, and yeah, I'm gonna produce, because I produced, I think, something like 17 or 18 films that I was the star of, And that means normally I just take the script, the director, and I help with the casting, and so I do the creative thing. But the investors and other Hollywood producers they put the money in. So these investors are getting together and put money up, and I'm meeting the attorney this month in Florida, and I'm going to pick some scripts and. Because that's what I do, and I've been doing it. I just stopped for a couple of years because of the pandemic. Because my wife is a makeup artist. She's been working right through the pandemic. But if you have the budget, they have to add new trailers because there can't be more than like 2 actors in the trailer at a time. And there's all these pandemic rules, and the rules cost more money for the production company. So it's not like in LA for somebody to shoot. But for my budgets, it gets too expensive to work within the COVID confines of the budgets. Got beefed up with COVID. Come up with a cure for.
Anyway, Don, I want to put an end to our show here, so we could put an ending here. So
this could be a different show. This could be a different show.
It is. This is like a whole other show we're going to. So any last words before we go? Because
well, my main thing is this. I'm at the level now where I've done. Anytime I do an interview, I like ending. I just like to say thank you for the people that supported me, because I've had 2 careers, successful ones, that without people supporting me would never have happened. Nobody pays for you to fight if there's no audience, right? The people that paid to watch me, people that watch me on TV and movies. I starred in 30 movies, and I've probably appeared in, 30 more movies, but nobody puts you in the movie if you don't have a fan base and an audience that will watch you in the movie. So I owe all the happiness that I've gotten in my life. I owe a lot of it to others. And I can't say, because I'm not going to lie, I can't say I did it for them. I didn't do the kickboxing for others. And the movies, nobody would do a movie if it was minimum wage. Nobody would want to stand.
Well, a lot of people out there, Don, have looked up to you, and they look at you, the things you've done, the great things, and I'm sure, like myself, in the '80s, watching you fight, you inspired a lot of people, like Bruce Lee did, and so one thing in everyone's eyes, you're inspirational. There's something that will go on in people's lives forever. That sets that spark to do something beyond what you normally would do in regular life, and so I appreciate you, Don, and I'm sure a lot of people out there do appreciate you. And we look to maybe have you back on the show again in the future. We'll talk about AI or something else. Who knows in the future? But
yeah. That's one of my pets.
I see that.
We don't have long in the future.
Yeah, but thank you so much for being on the show today, Don. Okay, I appreciate it. This is Don the Dragon Wilson today with Dr. Patrick Price, and this is the Body Detective Show. Take care, everyone.